Most people are chasing flashy business secrets, crypto, dropshipping hacks, viral funnels, because boring sounds like slow, and slow sounds like poor. But what if I told you the boring principles are the exact reason billionaires get richer every year, while most people stay stuck? What is the difference between financial stress and financial freedom is not genius level intelligence, but disciplined, boring, repeatable business fundamentals that nobody wants to follow. Most people think growth happens when inspiration hits. But in economics, growth happens when output is stable and predictable. Consistency is the quiet engine of wealth. Think about it. Every strong economy grows because businesses produce goods and services every single day, not just when they feel motivated. The same law applies to your business and your income. You don't need a revolutionary idea every week. You need a reliable process that delivers results repeatedly. That repetition is what transforms effort into measurable economic value. Here's the hook most people miss. Random success is fragile, but consistent success is scalable. When you show up daily, you reduce uncertainty. And uncertainty is the enemy of economic growth. Investors, customers, and partners trust businesses that perform consistently. That trust converts into demand, and demand drives revenue. In simple economic terms, consistency stabilizes your supply curve, and a stable supply curve attracts steady demand. Consistency also lowers costs over time. When you repeat the same processes, you become efficient. Efficiency reduces waste, and reducing waste increases profit margins. That's basic economics. The business that produces consistently learns faster, optimizes faster, and outperforms competitors who keep starting and stopping. Momentum compounds. Experience compounds. Customer relationships compounds. And compounding is the invisible force behind long-term wealth. Think about the biggest companies in the world. They don't rely on lucky days. They rely on systems that work every day. Amazon ships millions of products daily. Banks process transactions nonstop. Manufacturers produce at scale because consistency turns effort into economic power. If they only worked when they felt inspired, global markets would collapse. Your personal economy is no different. Your daily actions are your production system. Here's the real hook. You don't get rich from intense effort. You get rich from consistent effort multiplied over time. A small action repeated daily beats a massive action done once a month. In economics, this is called productivity growth. The more consistently you perform high-value tasks, the higher your output. And the higher your output, the higher your income potential. Consistency is boring, repetitive, and predictable. And that's why it works. Markets reward reliability. Money flows towards stability. And stability is built one disciplined day at a time. Most people are chasing attention, but attention is not a currency. Cash flow is. In economics, cash flow is the lifeblood of any business. Without consistent inflow of money, even the most famous brand collapses. You can have millions of followers, viral content, and global recognition. But if your business does not generate steady revenue, it is economically irrelevant. Here's the hook most people ignore. Clout impresses people. Cash flow controls people. Cash flow determines survival, growth, and power. It pays salaries, funds expansion, attracts investors, and stabilizes operations. Economies run on transactions, not applause. A company with predictable monthly revenue can plan, invest, and scale. A company with hype but no revenue is a ticking time bomb. That's why economists measure business success by profit, margins, and liquidity, not by popularity. Another powerful truth is that cash flow reduces financial risk. In economic theory, uncertainty increases risk, and risk scares capital away. When your business generates consistent income, lenders trust you, investors support you, and partners collaborate with you. Predictable revenue lowers volatility, and lower volatility increases valuation. This is why boring subscription businesses, utilities, and financial institutions often outperform flashy startups in long-term wealth creation. Here's the mindset shift. Followers don't guarantee freedom. Recurring revenue does. Cash flow gives you options. It allows reinvestment, diversification, and long-term planning. It turns effort into equity and activity into assets. When money flows in regularly, you stop reacting to emergencies and start designing your future. In macroeconomics, stable income streams increase consumption, savings, and investment, all drivers of economic growth. Your personal economy follows the same rules. Many entrepreneurs confuse marketing with monetization. Marketing attracts attention. Monetization converts attention into money. Economically intelligent people design systems where every action leads to revenue. They track conversion rates, customer lifetime value, acquisition costs, and profit margins. They treat their business like an economy, not a popularity contest. Here's the final hook. Cash flow is boring to talk about, but it is exciting to live with. It removes stress, multiplies opportunities, and creates leverage. In the world of economics, popularity is noise, but cash flow is signal. Money follows systems, not sensations, and the people who understand that principle quietly build empires while others chase applause. Most people believe hustle is the secret to wealth, but in economics, productivity is the secret. And productivity comes from systems. A system is simply a repeatable process that produces predictable results. Economies grow because systems operate continuously, not because people work endlessly. Here's the hook. Hustle makes you busy, systems make you rich. When you rely only on hustle, your income is directly tied to your time. In economic terms, your labor becomes the limiting factor of production. But when you build systems, you decouple income from time. Systems allow output to continue, even when you are sleeping, traveling, or thinking strategically. That's why corporations outperform individuals, because they run on processes, protocols, and automation. Systems increase efficiency, and efficiency is a core economic objective. When tasks are standardized, errors decrease, speed increases, and costs drop. Lower costs increase profit margins, and higher margins increase capital for expansion. This is basic microeconomics applied to business. A systematic business can scale production without scaling effort at the same rate. That is called economies of scale, and it is one of the biggest drivers of corporate wealth. Here's another hook most people miss. Motivation is unstable, but systems are stable. Motivation fluctuates with mood, energy, and circumstances. Systems operate regardless of how you feel. That stability creates consistent output, and consistent output attracts customers, investors, and partners. In economic markets, predictability reduces risk, and reduced risk increases value. Think about franchises, factories, and financial institutions. A McDonald's store doesn't rely on one inspired worker. It relies on standardized procedures. Banks don't rely on heroic employees. They rely on structured processes. These systems transform human effort into scalable economic machines. Your business, your content, your sales process, your learning routine, all can be systemized. Systems also create leverage. Leverage is the ability to multiply results with the same input. In economics, leverage increases productivity per unit of labor and capital. Automation, delegation, templates, and workflows are all forms of leverage. They allow one person to produce what would normally require 10 people. That is how small teams build billion-dollar companies. Here's the final hook. Rich people design systems so success becomes boring and failure becomes difficult. When processes are optimized, success is no longer an accident. It is an outcome. Systems turn chaos into structure, effort into output, and ambition into measurable economic growth. Most people underestimate compounding because it looks slow, quiet, and almost invisible in the beginning. But in economics, compounding is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. It is the process where gains generate more gains and growth feeds on itself. Here's the hook. Linear effort creates linear results, but compounded effort creates exponential wealth. When you reinvest profits, instead of spending them, your capital base increases. When you improve your skills every day, your earning power increases. When you build relationships and reputation over time, your opportunities multiply. Compounding is not just financial. It is intellectual, social, and strategic. Economies grow because capital, technology, and knowledge compound across generations. The same law applies to individuals and businesses. Compounding requires patience, and patience is rare. Most people want immediate results, but economic value is often delayed. Investors understand that early growth is slow, but once compounding accelerates, progress becomes unstoppable. A small investment growing at a modest rate can outperform a large investment with no growth. That's why long-term investors outperform short-term traders. They let time do the heavy lifting. Here's a powerful hook most people ignore. Time is the richest investor in the room. The longer your assets, skills, and systems compound, the less effort you need to achieve bigger outcomes. A business that reinvests profits into marketing, technology, and talent creates a feedback loop where growth funds more growth. In macroeconomics, this is how nations develop. Capital accumulation fuels productivity, and productivity fuels higher income. Compounding also reduces risk when managed correctly. Diversified investments, repeated skill building, and incremental system improvements create stability instead of relying on one big win. Compounding builds many small wins that stack over time. This reduces volatility and increases resilience. In economic terms, compounding improves both expected returns and long-term sustainability. Think about learning. Reading 10 pages a day seems boring, but over a year, it equals thousands of pages of knowledge. Think about sales. Improving your conversion rate by 1% every month seems small, but over a year, it can double revenue. Small, consistent improvements create massive outcomes because they stack. Here's the final hook. Compounding rewards the patient and punishes the impatient. People who chase quick wins reset their progress repeatedly. People who compound their efforts build momentum that becomes almost impossible to stop. In economics, exponential growth is rare, powerful, and life-changing. And compounding is the engine that creates it. Most people believe wealth comes from working harder. But in economics, wealth comes from choosing smarter. Every decision has an opportunity cost. The value of the next best alternative you give up when you make a choice. Here's the hook. You are not poor because you lack money. You are poor because you misuse opportunity cost. Time, energy, and attention are scarce resources, and how you allocate them determines your economic trajectory. When you spend hours scrolling social media, the opportunity cost is the skill you could have learned, the product you could have built, or the client you could have served. When you accept low-value tasks, the opportunity cost is the high-value activity you avoided. Economists assume rational agents choose actions that maximize returns. Rich people think like economists. They ask, what is the highest economic return on this hour of my life? Opportunity cost explains why wealthy individuals outsource, automate, and delegate. They understand that their time is more valuable when spent on strategy, sales, and growth. Paying someone else to handle routine tasks frees them to focus on activities with higher marginal returns. In economic terms, they specialize according to comparative advantage. They do what they do best and outsource the rest. Here's another hook most people miss. Busy is not productive, and cheap is often expensive. Choosing low-cost options can have high opportunity costs. Saving money by doing everything yourself may cost you years of growth. Choosing comfort over challenge may cost you millions in future earnings. Opportunity cost forces you to think long-term, not just in the moment. Businesses use opportunity cost to allocate capital. Governments use it to allocate resources. Investors use it to allocate portfolios. Individuals should use it to allocate life. Every yes is a no to something else. Every hour invested in learning, building, and networking has a compounding return. Every hour wasted has a compounding loss. Economically intelligent people track their decisions like investments, evaluating expected returns, risks, and time horizons. Here's the powerful hook. The richest people are ruthless with opportunity cost, but generous with investment. They sacrifice entertainment for education, comfort for growth, and short-term pleasure for long-term power. They understand that wealth is not built by what you earn, but by what you choose not to waste. In economics, scarcity creates value, and your time is the scarcest asset you will ever own. Most people believe money is the greatest asset, but in economics, human capital is often more valuable than financial capital. Human capital refers to your skills, knowledge, experience, and ability to create value. Here's the hook. Money can be lost, but skills can be rebuilt into millions. Your earning power is not determined by what you have in your bank account. It is determined by what you can produce, solve, and sell. Economies grow when their people become more productive. Nations invest billions in education, training, and innovation because skilled people create businesses, technology, and wealth. The same principle applies to individuals. When you invest in learning, sales, marketing, leadership, finance, and communication, you increase your economic value in the marketplace. In economic terms, you are increasing your marginal productivity, and higher productivity leads to higher income. Here's a powerful hook most people ignore. Degrees don't create wealth. Valuable skills do. Formal education can help, but market-relevant skills create leverage. A person who can persuade, negotiate, build systems, and solve problems can generate income in any economy. Skills are portable, scalable, and resilient. They protect you from economic downturns, job loss, and market shifts. Human capital also compounds. The more you learn, the faster you learn. The more you sell, the better you sell. The more you lead, the more influence you gain. This creates a feedback loop where experience multiplies earning potential. In macroeconomics, this is known as endogenous growth, growth driven by internal improvements in knowledge and technology. Your personal economy follows the same model. Another hook. Rich people don't just invest in stocks. They invest in themselves first. They attend courses, hire mentors, read books, and practice relentlessly. They understand that the return on skill development often exceeds the return on financial investments. A single high-income skill can generate millions over a lifetime, while a single stock investment might not. Human capital also creates leverage through networks. Skilled individuals attract partnerships, investors, and opportunities. Businesses seek talent that can create revenue and solve complex problems. When your value increases, your bargaining power increases. In economic negotiations, power belongs to those who can walk away because their skills are in demand. Here's the final hook. You are the asset, and your skills are the engine of wealth creation. Markets change, industries collapse, and technologies evolve. But human capital adapts. In economics, capital depreciates, but knowledge appreciates. The smartest investment you will ever make is not in the market, but in the person you become. So if you want to get rich, stop looking for magic and start loving the mundane. Fall in love with repetition. Fall in love with discipline. Fall in love with boring principles done at a world-class level. Because boring done consistently is not boring. It's legendary. Remember this. Flashy makes headlines. Boring makes millionaires.